Well, hello. We're going to take another look at what we call virtual ops. That's model railroad operations between model railroads that are located in homes 1,000 miles or more away. What do we mean by virtual ops? Well, a friend takes a picture of a coal train on his layout with a pooled powered mix of Penn Central and B&O F7s. Then I follow up with a video of the same train with the same consist rolling onto my layout. He posts a picture of U28C number 6533 at the head end of a grain train, and I post pictures or a video of the same train rolling towards West Mill Yard on my layout. We use our blogs as a way of showing the pictures and videos that we take of the car movements between our layouts. Here's my blog, the Kingsport Division. Here's a sample of a picture of one of the car movements that we're doing. You'll notice it says PCCM59. That stands for Penn Central Car Movement. This is the 59th series. Here's a sample of another photograph and some video that I posted about a car movement we did recently. Here's a picture of my friend John's blog. John and I were the original developers of this concept, and originally it was just the two of us sending cars back and forth virtually. But over time we've included our friend Neil in his Atlantic Pacific Railroad blog, and Brian has joined us as well with his Ralston Creek Railroad blog, and another guy named John B., with his Model Railroad Miscellany blog. We all have several cars in common now, and to keep it all organized, we developed what we call the Rail Traffic Management Form, which sort of functions like a set of car cards because it lists every car we own and then describes the cycles of operation for each one. Some have 4, some have more than that. Well, let's do an illustrative example of some virtual ops. Here's Penn Central 40-foot boxcar number 104478. On the Rail Traffic Management form, the first cycle is that the car goes to KP Steel on my layout where it's loaded with new 55-gallon drums. It then goes to Drywell Inks on my friend John's layout where those drums are loaded with ink and then sent back to my layout for Canton Box Company. In our current series, the car is on John's layout having just been loaded by Drywell Inks. Now it's being put on a train in John's terminal yard, and it'll be dispatched towards my layout. John chose a consist of a GP30 F7, a very Penn Central consist. Now I could choose to emulate that myself if I wanted to, or change power at Selkirk Yard. So here's the same train that left John's layout appearing on mine. I decided to go with a pair of FP7s because I really like how these run. These are old Atlas units. But the more I think about it, I kind of kick myself that I didn't do that GP30 F7 combo. That was a pretty good one. So you can see the train rolling on my layout, and you'll recognize some of the cars that were on John's train. And coming up here is Penn Central Boxcar 104478 in front of those gondolas. When we post pictures and videos of our car exchange movements, we like to have some fun with them, and we might do things like include train meets, just to make it more operationally interesting. So the train headed by the FP7s that has the cars from John's layout come to a stop here because there's going to be a train that will overtake it. The crew gets out, they have a little lunch at Dave's Diner, and then a pooled power train of B&O and my own freelanced Kingsport and Western rolls by. The cars on this train are not involved in the virtual ops, that is, we don't share these in common, but they're kind of background cars to make it more interesting. Once the faster priority train is out of the way, our virtual ops train gets underway towards West Mill Yard. We often include roll-by videos or a series of photographs that show all of the cars involved in the virtual ops. These are great reminders for us where the cars are coming from, what commodities they're carrying, and what their final destinations are. Each one of the cars on this train is a virtual op car and will be forwarded from one layout to the next. Well, here's a little video of the train coming into my Westmill yard. Once it stops, it'll be broken down, and the cars in the virtual ops will be forwarded to their final destinations, local industries on my layout. It's fun to include scenes like the crew getting off of the locomotives, and also like a quickie review of the cars that are involved in the virtual ops on this train, including our friend, number 104478, loaded with drums of ink for the Canton Box Company. These gons of rough scrap are going to nearby Sal's Salvage. These came from John's layout too. The Penn Central boxcar with the silver roof was actually forwarded from Neil's layout. A couple of pictures of the caboose being pulled off the train and set out on the caboose track at West Mill Yard. And then a little later we get down to the business of breaking down the train. Our latest series was an active one, and I received cars from John, Neil, and Brian. As the switcher works the yard, another southbound freight from Selkirk comes down, and this one will be dropping off some cars that Brian sent. Not all the cars on this train are virtual op cars. They are what the video game world might call non-player characters. The virtual ops cars from Brian start with this New York Central double-door 50-foot boxcar. Here's some others that he sent me. Grand Trunk and Western car is filled with electric motors from Wazi Electric for my Peerless appliance. The covered hopper is going empty to Cavendish Foods, and we will be loaded with used wort for cattle feed. And then we both have a Gurn industry in our layouts. This one's empty for mine to send back to Brian's. Some of the industries on my layout are served by my freelanced railroad, the Kingsport and Western, and here's a KP&W train in Kingsport headed by an F7A SD9 consist at the head end. All of the cars in this train are non-player characters, if you will, but the train is headed to Westmill, where it will pick up some virtual ops cars that Brian and John sent my way. So here's the train in Westmill picking up those cars. It's actually picked them up and backing them into the rest of the train. There's that ST9 F7 combo. These are 30-year-old Athearn units that still MU very well together on my DC layout. Once the cars are coupled up to the rest of the train, it heads out of Westmill towards the Kingsport and Western's Mayfield Yard. After that, the train will be broken down, and cars will go out on locals. Well, here's some pictures of some setouts that happened later. The EL car and GT car are set out at Peerless Appliance. The Erie Lackawanna car has crates from Neil's Lumber on John's layout, and the GT car again has electric motors from Brian's. This NYC boxcar at Acme Auto Parts is full of steel wool muffler mesh from John's layout, and there's that PC covered hopper at Cavendish Foods, where it's going to be loaded with tasty cattle feed. Alright, next up, we're going to finally set out Penn Central boxcar 104478. First, there's a little bit of yard work. The switcher is pushing 2 guns of scrap and the Gurn covered hopper into a GP7 that's going to take care of business. The switcher gets out of the way. And then the Jeep pulls forward. It's going to go just beyond the yard ladder and then come back. You can see Boxcar 104-478 there on the left side of the screen. The Jeep's going back to claim that now. It's going to do a push-pull kind of move to make it easy to set out cars near West Mill Yard that have both facing and trailing spurs. All right, picking up 104-478, and the train gets ready to leave West Mill. It's a short trip, actually. Very quickly crosses the road in front of the old abandoned West Mill Station by Canton Box Company on the right. And it will set out 2 gondolas of scrap at Sal's Salvage and 1 covered hopper at Gurn. There's the Gurn covered hopper being set out. And once uncoupled, the 2 gons are pulled back into place at Sal's, which shares the spur. Sal's only has room for 2 of these gons. There were 4. The other 2 are constructively placed in the yard and will be delivered later. Now here's Penn Central Boxcar 104-478 finally being set out at the Canton Box Company. Well, this concludes this look at what our virtual ops can look like. It's a lot of fun, and we've enjoyed it for quite a while now. Thank you very much for watching.